Good night. We are the Melanated Council, as you can see here. And we stream now every other Tuesday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, generally around that time. And wherever you are in the world, and it's not 9 or 6, then that's when we stream. I did not invent time zones. And as always, please like, subscribe, share, and enjoy the show. So, if you're new to the channel, we usually like to talk about a different topic every month, and we have like a broad topic, and then each time we stream on a Tuesday, we like to kind of delve deeper into different aspects of said topic. So this month, August, we're talking a lot about Black history and just different facets of Black history that we usually don't get to really talk about. And tonight we are talking about NAACP from history and now. Um, Once again, if you're new, we usually like to share a little bit about our weekends, weeks, any highlights before we get into the topic, just to bring a lighter mood to. Hey, everybody. Hey, everybody.
What's
Yeah.
going on, Rocky and Chad? Yo,
Hey,
we're
Rock.
ready. I love it.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining. As you all can see, we have a new face. We have a special guest tonight. Her name is Nicole Tingle. No relation to the Tingle from the Legend of Zelda series. Not that I know of. It's still yet to be determined. And yeah, so she's joining us. She's a friend of Toby here. And are you based out of DC by any chance, or
Oh,
Maryland?
no, I'm not. I'm based out of Providence, Rhode Island.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
cool, nice. Oh man, like I heard that you guys. I don't know if Rhode Island. I think so, but I know Boston got like a lot of rain and was like pretty like flooded.
Yeah, we've been getting a lot of rain this summer for some reason. Been dealing with a lot of flooding. Even on I-95, which we've learned, I guess we have a drainage issue this year because it was ridiculously flooded earlier in the season. But yeah, the weather has
Jeez.
been interesting.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm based down here in South Florida, and we've been getting hit by rain for, just crazy amounts of rain for like like months now. Like even back in April, we had, I don't know if you heard about it on the news where there was like it rained a bunch and then the ports got flooded, so the oil tanks that bring in the gasoline, the oil couldn't dock.
Mm.
So there was a really big gas shortage, and this was just April. Like this wasn't a hurricane or anything. It was just a very rainy couple of days.
Sheesh.
Yeah, it was insane. And every time it rains now, downtown Fort Lauderdale, down Miami, oh my God, like it just floods and people can't drive. Like a lot of people's cars get like, flooded out. It's been getting very bad. But hey, climate change is a hoax, so
But
sure it's just a hiccup that won't happen like it does every year.
Oh yeah, I was just hearing on the radio on the other end with heat waves, but oof,
Mm.
it's a whole different thing.
Yeah, every day my phone notifies me of a heat advisory. It's insane. It's insane. Like the heat down here is crazy. Like I step out of the house, my glasses fog. I I get out of the car, my glasses fog,
Oh
and that's
jeez.
goodness gracious.
that's just my life now. Fake. Phew, I was worried. Yeah, yeah. The rain is just fake news. It'll go away soon. Hurricanes. What are those? Just
Oh jeez. Right.
Yeah, you just have to shoot at the hurricane and they'll go away. Everybody knows that.
Um, on the note of, I guess, how things are going, I figured perhaps should we extend the honor to
Absolutely.
our guest first. If you just want to say what's been going on in your life recently, your weekend, or just even just what's popping.
Yeah,
Yeah.
even 20 minutes ago. Some,
Yeah. So I honestly am at a point where I'm just making sure I take time to just reset and recharge.
nice.
To be quite honest, I'm really glad that I'm here to speak about the NAACP because it's really a big part of my life at this point. And I've been with the organization for the past few years, and this work can get very draining for many reasons. So I've noticed over time, I feel like I'm like, gee, I really need to make sure that I'm taking the time to block out time to just not doing anything. So this weekend, I literally just made sure to like can't really, for what I heard, catch up on sleep, but to really sleep and to watch some shows, and also figure out which city I'm going to see Beyonce in.
Hey, nice, nice. Yeah.
Still,
Yeah. Yeah, I've been seeing like videos of the Renaissance tour. I was gonna say the Renaissance Festival, like a nerd. The Renaissance tour. I did go to the Renaissance Festival earlier this year, but wow. Anyway, yeah, and like the tour just sounds absolutely amazing. Like my friend actually just shared some pictures with me like right before the stream, and I don't even know what city or where he went to. Like he's an actor in Atlanta, but he made it happen. Yeah. Are you gonna dress up?
Yes, I have to. I feel like I
Yes.
would be remiss if I did not dress up.
Yeah.
What that outfit looks like, not sure yet. I have some ideas, but I definitely would dress up.
Nice. Nice, nice. Man, that's exciting. Like that's like part of the fun too, is dressing up and then yeah, it's like from the videos and the pictures that I've been seeing from like what my friends have been sharing, like the outfits that they've been, putting together, it's like, man, that just sounds like a whole experience,
Yeah.
yeah. I didn't see the process, but I definitely saw different Instagram posts with the outfits, or like I guess Beyonce did come a few weekends ago here, so I remember when I went out one Sunday, the same night because she did it Saturday and Sunday, I believe, or I forget what 2 days it was. Yeah, I think it was Saturday and Sunday. So when I went out on, kind of coincidentally, I was out on Saturday for a different concert. Ruger, however you say his name, this Nigerian guy. Um, I think that was the 5th. So when I went out afterwards for like an after party, whatever, it was just like some lounge, and I saw someone wearing this like silver outfit. And I was like, oh snap, this is dope. In my head, I was so oblivious because I forgot that she was there the same day. So I was just like, oh yeah, I'm feeling that whatever. And she was like, oh yeah, I saw Beyonce earlier. I was like, oh right, because weeks ago she had been in Boston in like July, so I remember seeing it then, but I guess it was just out of
Oh,
my head already. Like I saw a lot of my friends post on Instagram weeks before. But anyways, yes, that would be cool. I definitely did not have the bandwidth to go see her that past weekend or so, but and 2 weekends ago. But that's cool. Um,
yeah, no, for sure.
I guess maybe you.
Yeah. Um, yeah, last week was my birthday. And
Happy birthday.
thank you. Yeah, I'm 1 year older, about the same level of wisdom. And maybe just a smidge wiser. But it was a lot of fun. It was like in the middle of the week, so there's pros and cons to a middle of the week birthday. I always make sure to take my birthday off though, and like my boyfriend and I, we went to like this bookstore in Florida called like Old Florida Bookstore, and it was so pretty. I gotta share the pictures. Like I think I only took like one picture and put it on my stories, and I'm like, I hate social media. So I was like, it just always seems like you're just trying to show off. Like, I don't know, maybe it's just me. Like, some people are legitimately trying to share, and I'm like, I want to share this too. This is really cool, but everybody's at work. So, no, Gil, you're right on time.
Hey,
Hey,
never late.
yes. So we went to this bookstore, and then we went to like this Mexican restaurant. I like to go places I've never gone to before and check things out. Um, then we went to this brewery that I've heard about, but I haven't gone that I had never gone to because I'm just never in that area, Dania Beach. Um, and so I went to this brewery. It was called Three Suns. It was all right. Like, I don't think I would. I mean, I would go again if I'm just like in the area and I'm in the mood for some beer. But yeah, and then we went and hung out at like this video game bar, and then we went to like my brother's. So we were like gone the whole day, and it was a lot of fun. And then I took the following day off and just kind of recouped because I drank pretty much the whole day, which I normally don't do. Um, I was just trying to celebrate because then I had to get an MRI on my shoulder. Like, Nicole, I dislocated my shoulder like a couple of months ago,
Oh, gee.
and yeah, like swimming of all things. It just, yeah, it was weird. Like, but it's been getting better. I actually went to the orthopedic today, and I get because you get like this disc when you get an MRI, and he was telling me the results, and it's essentially just like I just have to do physical therapy until everything heals, which is good, like not surgery, but there was like a couple of tears, but not like full tears that needed surgery. It was just tears that just needed more physical therapy and time to heal. So I'm like, all right. But my shoulder is a lot better than, even compared to like a couple of weeks ago. So, it's getting better slowly but surely.
Mm,
I actually went to the gym for the first time since I dislocated my shoulder Friday. I did legs, of course, because I didn't really have a choice.
mm,
And it was cool. Like, I forgot that they got new equipment because I remember getting the email. I'm like, all right, whatever. I can't go to the gym anyway. And this was probably like soon after I dislocated my shoulder too. They're like, oh, we're gonna be closed because we're getting new equipment. I'm like, don't care. And so when I go in, it's like I didn't think it was gonna be like I guess I forgot. Like I forgot that they got new equipment. But when I saw it, I was like, oh, okay. But I was like, it was like a lot more stuff. Like I thought they were gonna just like maybe swap out the older equipment with newer equipment and like do some upgrades and a couple of things. But it was like a lot more equipment and like areas that were usually meant for like stretching and stuff. Like they just filled it with equipment. And like I was like, oh wow, it's like there's still enough space, but it also feels kind of like close together. Like it went from having like three Smith machines, the squat machines, to two more, and I was like that's a lot of like those machines are huge, so I can't believe like they were able to fit two more. But yeah, like it was. Of course, I didn't use the Smith machine because I with my shoulder, but I was like I must have looked weird because I was just like standing around looking like just confused. I was like, what the heck? But hey, it was Did they remove the mirrors in the gym? No. Like funny enough, actually, because I have this thing through my job called Active and Fit, where you sign up through Active and Fit, and you can sign up to as pretty much as many gyms as you like, and you only have to pay that like $28 a month. So I checked out a UFit, and apparently they installed more mirrors in the UFit, which is kind of funny. I think they're doing that for, the whole like social media craze. But I mean, it's nice to get back into the gym though, because I did miss it, and I went yesterday as well. And just like those 2 days, like I just see like a significant improvement in my overall mood. Like I do feel like a lot better, and I think it was just because I was just going crazy, not really doing much. Like I would go for walks and like walk jogs when I was cleared to to run, but it's like I want to do more stuff, but there's only so much I can do. And I was just doing, the shoulder exercises, the physical therapy, rehabbing shoulder workouts like every day, sometimes twice a day. And I was like, I need to do other stuff. But it's been fun. And also like it's like a billion degrees outside, so like going for runs or jogs is not ideal. Also, I don't know if how it is up where you are, like Toby and Nicole, but even at night it's blazing hot down here.
Yeah.
So it's like 80. It's probably like 82 degrees right now. Let me check. It is no, it's 84 degrees. And it looks like it's gonna rain at 1 in the morning, probably due to the heat. So
It's really hot. No, it's right now it's 67.
oh my gosh, that sounds amazing.
But during the day it tends to get pretty hot. It tends to be around 80, but actually the next few days it's kind of cooler than it has been, but it's been around the 80s consistently, so it's actually really nice.
Yeah, that's like our winters. But yeah, like 67. Oh my goodness. Oh, that would be amazing.
Yeah, I could use 67 actually. It's not Florida hot, but it's definitely noticeably hotter um, here in Maryland, or at least like more humid, just kind of gross at times. And I'm on the second floor of this older house that I don't know has questionable ventilation, but I mean it's been somewhat manageable at night. So just have to keep my fan on. I'm keeping it at a low setting so it's not too loud, but I just have this fan going that I actually apparently I had it. I don't remember where I got it, but I was able to get it and I had it in my last apartment. Never used it. Um just because, whatever, it was in a pretty good apartment. It was too cold if anything. And then I ended up using it when I came here. My siblings kind of gave me the idea because when we all moved, when they helped me like clean my stuff in my old apartment and pack things up, I think they had it running to like, oh no, I think that was actually here. Shortly after I moved here, we did some work in the apartment, and when they came, my sisters came and helped organize. They had the fan running, and they found it. So I was like, oh, okay, cool. Now I can survive at night. um, so we'll see though how it gets when it's colder because I'm not sure what the heat in this place is like, but still, you know, it shouldn't be terrible. Definitely not as bad as New England winters, but yeah.
Yeah, but man, I don't know. Like winters down here are nice when it actually does get to winter. My favorite season is that 2 week cold front we get in October every year for some reason.
Mm.
But um, but yeah, the like yeah like March, like April. I mean not April, like April. I think at the beginning, but like February, March can be very very nice. Like the humidity is so low. Everybody's like happy, waving at you. Like you can actually bear being outside. Like you definitely can tell the difference between like the heat does make you angrier. Like I think more violence actually rises in when it's hotter. I guess both heat and violence rise. Um, but it's just it's like it is just like unbearably hot. And it's just getting worse and worse every year. Like I've lived down here pretty like my whole life, and I remember like even I like in my own lifetime, like I can remember going to like elementary school and like it being September or October or something. I'm like wearing a coat, like like a jacket of some kind, because it would get chilly. And I remember it'd be chilly for like a while, but now that just doesn't happen. It sucks. Oh, let me see Rocky's comment. I don't know if I highlighted it. Checking my phone, 85 degrees is not too bad. I can handle that. Seeing that humidity is 80%, I'm falling down. Yeah. Yeah, it's a weird feeling. It's like you just know that feeling of humidity and just like stepping outside of your house and you're like, this is just gross. And then you just have to deal with it. Because you have no choice. But I don't know. It was somebody's idea to build cities in a swamp.
Yeah.
And then jack up the prices of everything.
Inflation as well. Yeah.
Terrible.
Oh my gosh. But Toby, what's going on with you?
Yeah. So I'll keep it short and sweet. I mean, it's like 2 weeks worth, but really the main thing was I got to catch up with some friends, which was awesome. Some friends one who I hadn't seen since college graduation in 2016. But we keep in touch with social media. And when I came back, I was like, oh, we're gonna have to hang. But he actually started med school in like Kentucky, in Louisville. So I was like, dang, that's big. But he ended up being in town. Like he hit me up a week before for Friday, and the week was just so crazy that I just, it was so much going on. But I finally, I was able to meet up with him, and I saw another friend from undergrad who I hadn't seen probably since 2017. I saw her maybe a year after I graduated, but like, it wasn't like we kept as in touch. So my good friend, like he's African, Sierra Leonean, but kind of born here or whatever. And then my other friend's also Nigerian. Oh, her name is also Nicole, funny enough. And so, but I was able to see my friend Augustus, which was awesome. And then by a surprise, my other friend Nicole, and then some of Gus's friends and whatever, and we all were hanging out.
Is this a different Nicole?
Yeah. This is a friend from because I met. Yeah, that's why I say her friend is also Nicole. My friend's name from undergrad. So I met Nicole like in the Boston area, just really maybe 3 years ago. It feels like a little 2 to 3 years. But my other friend I knew since like 2012, but we just hadn't always kept in touch.
Gotcha. Okay.
But no, but like we had been close at different times and cool. So it was just nice to see each other for a little bit. But that was Friday. We were just like a little lounge, nothing too crazy. Saturday I hung out with a different group of friends. The national. There has to be a better way of saying this. The African American History Museum in DC had a block party for the 50th anniversary of hip hop, which was awesome, but I couldn't go because I didn't get tickets. And tickets are cool. What's going on?
That's very accurate.
Oh man. But that block party I couldn't end up going because the tickets dropped like the week before, so probably last week Monday or the week before maybe. But either way, it was July 31st, and I knew about this for months, since May, and I was like, I gotta go. Hopefully, friends from Boston can come, but tickets dropped like at noon, and I was very busy that day, so I went to the ticket site like 4 or 5 p.m. Tickets were sold out. It was free tickets, but you had to get passes, and then I ended up getting I was on the wait list, but then like a day or two before the event, they were like tickets are all sold out, or tickets are done because of overwhelming demand, interest in the event, and I was like, this sucks. So a friend of mine from Boston came, and I didn't know. I guess we didn't because she was interested in that event for some time, but I didn't know that she was actually coming for us. She was asking like, did I get tickets? She hit me up on Friday asking if I was free for brunch. I did not see that message because Friday was a chaotic day, and I was like doing work stuff or other stuff outside of work all the way till the evening. Like late. It was like at least 10 p.m. and I was still at my office, but I wasn't doing work. It was important stuff that I had to just take care of. So long story short, was um I basically had missed her, but then Saturday she went to the event with the tickets. Um but I it wouldn't have made sense for me to go. One, I was really busy doing more stuff. It was like tax related stuff that I'd spent Friday, Saturday doing. So I was like, I had to get that done. But then also, I was supposed to. I was like, does it make sense to go to DC meet my friend, even though I can't get in the event? I ended up going right near the end of the event, but she was like relieving because she had been there all day and it was super hot that day. So she was like, yeah, she's going back basically to our hotel to shower. And I was like, that's cool. And then I was like, maybe we can link up after, but I figured she'd be too beat. And then I went to another town, like 30 minutes away for a good friend of mine from college who also was the same year as me. He had a game night because he just bought a house. So he didn't have like a formal housewarming, but he called it like a game night. I mean, it was still, I feel like, good vibes. I got there like midnight. I was like, bro, can I come? It's like 11 something p.m. It started at 6. And he's like, yeah, come through. People would stay there till like 4 a.m. So it was all good. So that was really fun. And I met some cool people. Another good friend of mine from college who's my college roommate. He was also there. His birthday was early July, so I actually got to see him and this same friend, Obi, the one who hosted this event. I saw the two of them for my former roommate Devin's birthday, and then he ended up showing up to the housewarming. So it was just really cool to see the two of them. Well, obviously, one of them hosted. Devin, I figured would be there because they're good friends along with me. They both came to my own like welcome back party that I had like a month ago. So like I feel like we're a nice good group that like stayed together after college, but during the pandemic, we just at least I wasn't as in touch with both of them, or not always. So it was really cool to like reconnect and be like, hey, we're actually hanging out. This is super cool. Um, so no, that was good. And Sunday I just kind of stayed home. I was gonna go see Adonia, dancehall artist, and Alkaline, two Jamaican dancehall artists, but did not have time. I was gonna go to Baltimore. It was way too long. That would have been too much, and I had work stuff I had to actually catch up on. So stayed at home, just got stuff done, and that was the weekend for me. Work's been crazy busy. Hey,
Yeah.
work's been
What
insane.
though?
So look at the man. Um,
Yes, the legend himself.
Jeez.
but
It is
I
good to
was
see all you lovely faces and then the new face. Glad to see you.
yes indeed. Um,
Yes.
Ooh, I'm across the street before I get hit, but yeah, we good.
it's a perfect stopping point for me because honestly, that's
Uh
really
oh.
it. That's really it.
Who's that? Chad? What's happening, Chad? I see you, sir.
Toby Gill has a he wants you to be honest.
Let's tell us you're busy. Wait, what's this?
Baldur's Gate.
I don't think I know the reference.
It's like a game, right?
Interesting.
What's up, Gil? I see you, Gil. What's happening?
Three.
But
I know Rocky's in the mix somewhere in there.
Don
yes,
Ron.
Ron is the Don, and he's holding it down everywhere and everything.
Listen, I try. I try. I appreciate it.
Hey.
Hey,
Yeah, long time no see.
yes, I remember video game.
Right?
Interesting. I'll have to look more into it, but gaming has poof, like flown way off my radar with a lot of things.
All right. I don't know if Mish is in the. Oh, stop it! Stop it! Stop it! But even though, yes, that's what my name means, but stop it, stop it.
Is that really what Ronald means?
Yeah, it means one who rules with counsel.
Oh.
Interesting.
Hmm. And henceforth, I am part of the melanated council. I think that fits.
I love it.
I think it fits. If not, we'll make it fit.
Yeah. That's awesome that you can walk to and from work though.
Yeah, yeah. Like I really, I don't live far from one of my jobs. My other job, oh no, I gotta at least bike. I gotta at least bike.
Okay.
But
That's still not
but
bad.
the but the summer job, yeah, it's close enough to the point where I can walk to and from work, especially if it's not like raining cats and dogs like it's been over the last past 2 days. So
Mm.
yeah, but no, I guess sometime last week we messed around and had a tornado.
Whoa. Oh yeah, I
Ah,
did
dang.
hear that.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, like I know Michigan is prone to getting them, but I think within the last 2 years we've been having them a lot more frequently,
Mm.
a lot more frequently. So it's like, okay, got to keep my eyes peeled and whatnot. So yeah, but it's all good. It wasn't near my city, but it was more so kind of the middle part of Michigan in the lower peninsula. So still like an eye opener because if you think about the middle part of Michigan, that's where you have like a lot of your smaller towns, a lot of your historic towns. They're in there as well, and even then, you still got a sprinkle of some of your larger cities that kind of surround those smaller towns as well, like Grand Rapids, like Flint, Saginaw, just to kind of name a few. So I'm like, yeah, you got to be more careful.
Mm.
But even then, um, like the outskirts of Detroit, believe it or not, they've been getting hit too as well.
Mm.
So it was just, again, like I said, it's an eye opener. I think like sometime last month we had a tornado that touched down about about 15 minutes outside of my city, with kind of eastward. But even still, it just kind of lets me know, like it could possibly happen.
Mm.
Even though yes, it was still 15 minutes away, it could have happened right where I was lived at. And I don't live in a big city at all. I don't. I really don't. So I'm just thankful that it landed in like a cornfield. It just kind of messed up the property there. No homes got damaged in a way, but still, just knowing that it did touch down, it did, do some significant damage, and even then, the tornado itself, it wasn't no small one either. Mm-mm. It was pretty big.
Mm.
So just kind of throw that out there. But other than that, we're good for now.
Good. No, stay safe. Good to hear.
Right, right. But yeah, I see we got a special guest with us.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah, hello.
Hello, how are
Yes.
you?
My friend Nicole, I brought her on.
Ooh,
Because, well, yeah. I guess yeah, if you want to talk a little bit about, I mean, Ron, I know you were doing your thing, so um, it's kind of up to you. But if you do want to talk, Nicole, especially um, your background, how this ties into today, like before we do a super deep dive into the topic, just you know who's Nicole Tingle and what is your relation to the NAACP? You hinted at it because you were like your life you've been very involved with it the last few years, and so
Right.
that's an interesting origin story to go into. We all have our arcs and our origin stories.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm glad I'm here to talk about NAACP. So I am born and raised in Providence, Rhode Island. I did spend some time at Temple University for undergrad, so I lived in Philly for a little bit and decided to return to Providence because my philosophy was pretty much that I wanted to make sure that if I was doing community service, I felt this urge to do it home first before doing community service in other areas. So that was pretty much my vision. So I came back home after undergrad. I have a communications background, and I actually met the previous president, our local president, James Vincent, um, at a housing gentrification play of some sort that was happening to raise awareness around the housing crisis in Providence at the Trinity Repertory Theater in our downtown area. And he handed me his card. He said, "Hey, come to one of our meetings." I'm like, okay. I was familiar with the NAACP because I had family members who actually contacted the NAACP when I was younger, related to housing issues actually in our community and what they were going through. So I did have my touch point with the NAACP in that regard. And then I also remember learning about the NAACP very briefly during school, which I feel like a lot of us have maybe seen the NAACP mentioned in one of our textbooks. So that's how I was familiar with the NAACP. And then I went to one of their general meetings, and there was a need for more leadership. Especially the average age, from my understanding, is like 60 years old for the entire organization, which is a bit concerning, to be honest. So we can take a deeper dive into that. But um, I joined a few years ago, went to a general body meeting. I built a rapport with the president, and he took me underneath his wing and said, "Hey, I'm going to show you the ropes. We have a need for leadership." At first, he said, "I would like for you to consider becoming a youth coordinator." I said, "Okay, sure." I honestly didn't set my eyes on leadership roles. I honestly thought I was will just knock on doors and do voter mobilization or hand out flyers. So I was really just thinking I was going to do more boots on the ground work. Just wanted to jump in and help any way I can. But there was, again, a need for leadership. So then we went to lunch again, and he came back and he said, "Actually, do you want to be secretary?" I said, "Okay, sure. I'll be secretary. I have to take some minutes, make sure people get the meeting notices. It shouldn't be that bad. It should be fine." And what I didn't know and what I wasn't prepared for was like a sense of like a lifestyle switch for me, because the NAACP, especially in Providence, but I feel like as a whole, it's such a powerful organization. It's a legacy civil rights organization that was founded in 1909 nationwide, but it was also founded in Providence in 1913. And so there's this long extensive history and this strong connection to media in this small little state. So as soon as I became secretary, like my network opened up, and a lot of folks, I was pretty much just thrown in. I was thrown in, and I met a lot of like local high profile politicians and community activists and many other folks that are considered leaders in our area. And I was honestly a bit overwhelmed. I thought I was just going to be taking meeting minutes and notes, but I got to understand more about lobbying around political action. I learned more about our legal redress process and what that entails, and also the power of media advocacy by way of the experience. So, in short, in a nutshell, that's how I got involved with the NAACP. We have standing general body meetings and executive committee meetings that we must attend. We also have a national convention where we can become delegates and get voted in by our local members and vote upon resolutions that affects our national positions on things like environmental justice and even internal affairs, education, housing, so many different issues, and even our programming, which we just had our national convention in Boston, which was our first chartered unit out in I believe it was 1910, if I'm not mistaken. So it's this rich history Many folks that come from, I would say, the collegiate background, working class, many folks that are really passionate about civil rights and racial justice work, strong network, around 2 million members nationwide. Yeah, there's so many different, different, I would say, spaces as it relates to the NAACP, the legacy that we could talk about. But I'll stop there for now.
I love
Okay.
it. I didn't even know all the history in terms of the dates. And I just think it's so great to know the context because in my head I was always like, this is like, 1800s, whatever. I mean, people who are active, I'm sure, like there was things that led to the NAACP being founded, but I was like, man, 19 something, like that's really not that long ago.
It wasn't.
110 years ago for the Providence chapter, which is huge.
Mm.
Goodness.
Yeah, yeah. And our president, shout outs to the current president, Gerard C. Katala, is our current president. He just was elected and began his term in January. I served 2 terms as secretary, which are 2 years per term. You must be elected in by your general membership. And now I'm first vice president of the local chapter, branch, because branches are adult branches, chapters are college. It's very particular about our language here.
Okay.
But as far as the origins of the NAACP, it was founded in 1909, following the Springfield riots, and W.E.B. Du Bois was really instrumental with many other, actually white liberals that came together and founded the NAACP off the back of the Niagara movement. So that's pretty much, in a nutshell, what happened leading up to the NAACP. And our first office was headquarters. It was in New York City, 1910.
Mm.
And some of our other founders, many of you know W.E.B. Du Bois, Ida B. Wells, Mary Church Terrell. Those are some of our actual founders. And then Thurgood Marshall was also very instrumental and had a strong touch point with the organization.
Powerful names right there.
Yeah.
Good, Marshall. Goodness.
Yeah. And speaking of like a lot of names, like one thing, so the reason why I didn't go to Beyonce in when it was in Boston, it was on August 1st. And our national convention was in Boston, and the last day was August 1st. We had a celebration of hip hop event that our local state conference had, and then we also had what we call our Freedom Fund, our National Freedom Fund Gala, which is the Spring Guard Gala. And at that event, we have a prestigious medal that's given to civil rights activists. And so Hazel Mama Dukes, we call her Mama Dukes, but Hazel Dukes, she is, I believe, 91 years old, and she is such a prominent leader with the NAACP. Like if anyone's a like true NAACP member, to be honest, bona fide, as we will say, they would know who Mama Dukes is, and she received that Spring Guard Medal, which is a really great honor to receive. And also, actually, Hillary Clinton is one of her best friends, what I understand, and she was there to, I know, right? And she was there to actually present her with the medal, which was a great moment. And all of this is actually available on YouTube to view, as far as different as far as resolutions plenary, the Spring Guard Gala, things of that nature, if you want to get a sense of what the convention's about and the business aspect. But the reason why I bring up the gala is because over the years since the founding, many prominent people received that medal. We have like Rosa Parks, Langston Hughes. It's a long, extensive list of folks that received that medal. So you can get a sense of, by looking at that list of folks that received it, get a sense of who had touch points with the NAACP.
Wow. Yeah, no, that YouTube, that's definitely gonna be something I have to do a little rabbit hole on. Because I really didn't know much about like in the modern age, right? With the NAACP, like you said, you learn about it in school and everything. And honestly, you're the first person. Well, not the first. So I met someone at an event in Boston, like probably some like kickback house party. But this was like when I first got to Boston in 2019. So I met them. Never really, I think we're still connected on Facebook, but like I never really like knew personally like someone like besides her who had been involved in I think the Massachusetts NAACP. I hadn't really been involved with anything. I didn't really know about any events, even with the Boston Black, and not to like say anything about any of these groups, but even with like Boston Black Group or NESB or different events I've been a part of, I haven't really heard NAACP come up in these conversations. Kind of like it would have been actually really dope to have known. It was you actually when we were really connected that you would sometimes send these invites, and I appreciate that. Even though I'm like, I think I was like one time. I think there was one event. Was it the national convention in Philly last year? Maybe.
Yes, it was in Atlantic City.
Atlantic City.
Yeah. We'll post about,
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No, yeah, I remember when you posted that, and I think I even saw you posting like different things like on stories or whatever, and I was like, man, this is really interesting. Of course, the year that I'm not in Boston is when it would be in Boston. Which is, I mean, I was crazy busy. Like, I don't think I even really registered that it was in Boston, but I do remember seeing like some invites. So like, I'm just like, yeah, it's actually really cool to know like what open events there are, like the big formal things like that, even like the general body meetings, even something like virtual. I'm like, yeah, this is actually kind of interesting. I know some of it was like very local with voting. Like I remember seeing a lot of things around the 2020 election, of course. Probably also with last year's midterms, where there was a lot of things for the Rhode Island NAACP or Providence. And I was like, man, this is actually really interesting. Like, because again, it's just like you don't always hear about. Like I know you got involved with your family, but it's like I don't hear people necessarily like jumping into the organization, especially like you said, younger people, like people who aren't necessarily legacy from when their parents and grandparents were there. But yeah, I'll pass the mic to Rocky on this one. That's deep.
Question for Nicole: what is the main function of the NAACP in 2023? As in, what impact or role do they play in the average person's life?
That's a really great question. And I will say, so it depends because the NAACP is such a large organization. We continue to focus on civil rights and we continue to focus on racial justice, more so racial equity. We recently updated our mission and vision statement to really make sure we're honing in on that equity part. But I would say the main functions from my perspective is really political action work and also our legal redress work. And we're still big on litigation on a national level. And so we've had a number of cases. One of the historical cases has been the Brown versus Board of Education case. But there has been more recent cases that are all available actually to view online that the NAACP has worked on. So that's something that has always been the NAACP litigation. And as far as the function for us focus on a national lens, it would be also like student loan debt. It's something that we focused on. We were really adamant for and still continue to push for debt forgiveness and cancellation to up to at least 50K for borrowers because Black and brown borrowers are disproportionately impacted by student loan debt.
Right.
What else? There's a number of issues that we can go over. Also with affirmative action with the Supreme Court in that recent decision, we have a new campaign that's called Diversity No Matter What. That's national in scope, and we're really pushing for colleges, universities, employers to take a stand to make sure that they're continuing to prioritize diversity, equity, inclusion initiatives, because now that's, to be honest, in danger with this recent decision. We also during, I would say for 2023, we had a number of resolutions that we looked at during our convention, And one which was interesting to me in the category of labor, for instance, had to deal with making sure that there was equity within labor when it comes to the cannabis industry. There were a number of resolutions in the past that was considered was brought forth to delegates at the national conventions, but they didn't really go anywhere. And I think it was because in many places cannabis was not legal, and also it was more so linguistics of like, oh, when it comes to the resolution process, it's like really the policies and really trying to say, oh, does this make sense? Should we have this as one resolution versus maybe a few resolutions as relates to cannabis? So that was a resolution as it relates to the labor aspect that was pushed. So education, health care, there's a number. Again, it's really, I feel like everyone, unfortunately, has some touch point with racism in modern day. It hasn't gone anywhere. So I feel that really how the NAACP could play a role or has played a role is really based on it's on a community basis, is on an individual basis. But nationwide, those were some of the campaigns that we went through, and that we have currently implemented. But I would say the most that I've seen locally has been the legal redress claims that we received in Providence. Most of them have to do with racism in education, housing, and the workplace. And what we're really adamant about doing is making sure that we're providing referrals, and also if there's folks that are really having issues, that we're being able to be there in solidarity with them and helping them and guiding them to come to a resolution, whether it's helping them find a lawyer, even if it's a parent that needs to go to an administrative building, it can be overwhelming. So at times we will go with a parent to the schools and sit by their side. And even just by having someone from the NAACP present most of the times in these spaces, usually we have testimonies, people will see results like no other because of the power of the organization, for those who are aware of it. If anybody hears that the NAACP is coming to their doorstep, and many of these corporations or even these higher education or local institutions, they usually know that's not a good that's not a good thing. I've seen it with my own eyes. So in short, I would say, well, if you want to learn more, if you have any questions, I would definitely take a look at our national website, naacp.org. From there, you will see many of our campaigns in a number of different social justice areas. But also, I would also encourage you, if you have any questions locally, to figure out who's your where your local branch is. Oh, and one big one I forgot to mention. There's a travel advisory that the NAACP has actually set forth regarding Florida, with everything that's happening in Florida right now. So we have a travel advisory that's issued, and we're continuing to monitor and really think of ways that we need to come together and potentially activate and mobilize, because it's a lot. So there's been conversations I know with members that I personally know from around a different states, where we're continuing to talk about Florida. So.
Right. Yeah. No, I do remember hearing about the travel advisory. Like, I don't know. Like, it kind of puts me in a weird spot, because it's not because I live here, but I do know that a lot of people, especially Black people, do rely on the money funded by tourism.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know. Like whenever, like, I don't want to sound like, I don't know, like, I don't know how to phrase this exactly. Like, it just seems like what we need is, support. But I feel like when it comes to, like, okay, there's like now a national travel advisory, it just seems like it kind of also like instills fear in the Black people that also live here. Because, like, I live here and I'm like, I understand that it's bad, but it kind of just gives off the impression of, like the South still holds like a majority of the Black population in the United States, and Florida is still considered the South. And the county that I live in, Broward County, is actually 1/3 Black. About the population is about 30% Black, and our county is, granted, yeah, like there is like, like impoverished places in this county, of course, and a lot of it is due to Black and brown folk. Like not like a lot of the population is Black and brown folks, but however, there are a lot of Black and brown folks who are business owners, homeowners, college educated, and gay, LGBTQ, trans, and like in Broward County, there is Wilton Manors is a LGBTQ or primarily gay city, and it's just like, I guess I'm just not quite sure what exactly does the travel advisory do, because when we're in a state that primarily relies on travel, like tourism, and like there are Black-owned businesses and that do rely on like the snowbirds coming down, or just tourism, people, like events and things coming, people coming to our beaches and things like that, like because a lot of our economy is run by like hotels and things like that. So I guess like what my question is I don't know. I guess like it's just a very like odd thing, like
Yeah.
because
Yeah, no, you're not alone in those in that having those sentiments. I'm actually a part of I graduated from a program within the NAACP called Next Gen Leadership,
right,
and it's a program that's really pretty much trying to bridge the age gap that we're having to encourage like intergenerational relationships within the org, and also to make sure we're grooming. Not, I hate the word groom. I'm sorry, not grooming, training. um,
I get it. Yeah.
Training of
Guiding.
guiding, training the next generation to really spearhead this movement. And within that space, we've had actually this conversation around the travel advisory, and many Floridians have those same sentiments, or what you're saying, as far as, well, relying heavily on, like, as far as the tourism industry, and how there's many Black folks that actually work within that industry, and what is the function of the travel advisory? Is it actually, effective, and what's the goal? So you're not alone in those feelings, and I feel like for me, after having some of those conversations, which was very productive, spirited dialogue, um, it's not a ban. So it's not necessarily saying don't travel to Florida, but it's more so saying, hey, if you plan to travel to Florida, be advised that, it's really politically heightened right now, and you want to make sure that you're best prepared if you do have an incident. Just be prepared going to Florida because of the climate right now. So a lot of times when I feel like when we hear travel advisory, it's like, whoa, but it's not a travel ban.
Right.
Yeah, but also with it being an advisory, I can see how that might cause maybe some anxieties, or how that, and it has deterred folks from traveling or having conventions there. But for what I've learned in a recent news article. I can't recall right now the source, but I do recall there was a credible news article that was saying, like, actually, from my understanding, that it had, like, by certain organizations pulling out of Florida for their conventions, it hasn't had a deep impact on the economy as of now. But and that is why we also question that, okay, but what is the goal with the travel advisory then?
Right.
If it's not having that deep impact economically. But again, I think it's more one of those things where folks are making that, or organizations and individuals are making that personal choice of like where their values lie. But also at the same time, my question has been, so are we going to go back to basics and really determine how, with organizations like the NAACP or the National Urban League, and even we have ties to, as far as the NAACP, to the Black Greek letter organizations. So
Okay.
in American Red Cross. So with all these different partners, we should be trying to hear from folks living in Florida what needs to be done and how maybe we can support from the outside to really combat some of these damaging policies that are being implemented
Yeah.
when it comes to curriculum and many other issues. But I think this is an opportunity with this travel advisory for us to have these conversations with folks that are living in Florida and close to the problem, and really being intentional with mobilization like we did when the NAACP first started with direct action and litigation. Um,
Right. Exactly. Because I don't know, like I just don't think it's wise to, like, I understand, like I get it. It's just like, you know, Florida, and you're correct, Rocky. That's essentially the question that I am asking. Like, so Florida has always been like the butt of every state's jokes, like we see it, we get it, like, but it's like, I'd be lying if I said I didn't love it here, like if I were to move out of the state, I'd have to deal with snow. And if I like I, there's like there's there's several black hairstylists that I can go to. There's several black owned businesses, black owned restaurants. Um, there's a massive black population down here, and like we are a swing state. I know that in the last election for governor, like Ron DeSantis, blew Charlie Crist out of the water. But I have no idea why the Democrats backed Charlie Crist. Like that was a stupid idea. And also because like even since he's lost, the man hasn't tweeted at all or like really engaged. Like I haven't checked in a while, but it was just kind of like like it just seemed like he was just like a grifter. But like I guess it's like we need help, and it just kind of like the travel advisory, and it just seems like you're putting a fear in like into onto the state, and it's like I don't know, like was it Frankenstein's monster, or like I remember like there was some kind of book where like, or like pretty much like the Hunchback of Notre Dame. It's like, yeah, it's like an ugly beast, but they just wanted friends. Like it's like, yeah, they just needed love, they just needed help, but it's like they couldn't help how they looked at the moment.
yeah.
Um, that's essentially Florida in a way. It's like there is hope here. Like I understand that the governor's race, like, yeah, like Ron DeSantis like blew Charlie Crist out of the water, but Val Demings, I think like I gotta check again, but I think it was like a pretty close race, and like there was just no support for Florida from like the Democratic Party, and I just don't understand why. Like I understand, like I don't know if it was the whole Andrew Gillum thing about him, you know, being found in a hotel room with a male escort, and like I don't know if it had something to do with that, where they just were like, yeah, let's just leave Florida alone completely, because even though that was a very close race, like, but let me highlight this again. Sorry, like, what's his face? The youngest Gen Z congressman, Maxwell Frost. He's from Central Florida. He's from Orlando. And he won his election. Mayor in Jacksonville won her election. Like she's a big name in Jacksonville, so it's understandable. But like they ran the right person. Nikki Fried, who was running for governor against Charlie Crist as Democrat for the Democratic primary, she's now part of like the Florida Democrats. She has like a seat, I think like a pretty big seat, or like the leader of the Florida Democrats. Chevron Jones, who's I can't remember. I think he's like state attorney or something. Like he's a gay black man. Like there's like, and I think there's a lesbian black woman in St. Pete or Tampa that's a congressperson. I don't know. I don't know if she lost her election, but like she was part of it. Like and also in Broward County, like up and down the ballot is always black people. Like you go to the courthouse in Broward and it's black people are like we are in politics, like here where I am, and I feel like that's one of the most southern things about Florida, because like you'd see the same thing, I'm sure, in like in Atlanta and Georgia, and like in parts of the South as well, for sure. But I just feel as though like I don't know if just people just don't know this. I mean, I guess like it's understandable, like, but like nobody knows every single state congressperson in every like that's I don't even know how many, like hundreds.
Yeah,
It's just like I don't know. Like I love my state. It's a pain in the ass. It's just like yeah, exactly. It's just I don't know. Like I feel like the memes and the jokes is kind of what's also pushing and driving people to like be like, oh, screw Florida, this Florida, that Florida. It's like we're the third most populous state too. Like we have more people than New York. Like there's a lot of people, there's a lot of like opportunity and power here, but it's just like it just feels like we're not getting the backing that we need, and I just don't quite understand.
Yeah, hearing all this. It's been very enlightening to hear about the different candidates. I know from the NAACP perspective, when I was actually at the convention, I met some folks that were part of the Florida State Conference for the NAACP, and the conversation around like political action is really the whole get out the vote initiatives need to definitely be amped up, and it needs to be more volunteers and folks helping to power that, from my understanding. For what I understand, the number of folks that are not coming out to vote is most of the times is due to just not having a touch point with folks to say, hey, to hold folks accountable, say, hey, come and vote, and also knowing who to vote for on their own terms, with voter education. So, yeah, I feel there are some folks in Florida that I've came across that are doing great work around GOTV and having like GOTV buses that go throughout the community. So I think that's one way to help like close that gap with voter turnout. That would be very instrumental with making sure that some of these candidates, especially candidates of color, are able to have like a fair shot. But that's what, from an NAACP standpoint, and we're nonpartisan. So that was my answer regarding
Okay. Oh,
regarding the NAACP. I would say folks should definitely, if you're in Florida, for sure, please look into the Florida State Conference and get to know more about what they're doing. And even our chairperson for our national board of directors is Chairman Leon Russell. He's from Florida, and I know he has a lot of touch points with Florida, from my understanding as well. But yes, I'm always interested in hearing about different candidates from different areas, but that's how I think we will be able to. It might seem very small, but I just think it's more support that's needed with GOTV. Get out the vote.
yeah. No, it's true. Like what Ender Buckley just posted. Like it's true. Like you know, like the South is technically like more like diversely integrated than a lot of parts in the North, like even like parts of New York City and like even like areas in Boston and things like that. And like it is just interesting like how people like view the South, because it's like, is it bad? Of course, like, but like you could say that for literally any state for like any certain parts, Like it's scary, it's concerning, but like it's also like, I don't know. Like I've met people who've moved from New England to South Florida and they're like, yeah, it's a lot less racist here than
Yeah, it's tough up here. It's tough because I feel like it's really hard. I can speak for me personally. It's hard to like thrive. It's really hard, and I feel like a part of it is because if you don't come from, it's really family oriented. I can speak for Rhode Island in particular. It's really like, oh, what's your last name? Who's your people? Oh, you're this. Like nepotism is really alive because it's so small, and that's really, to be honest, how it operates. You have to be a part of the right group, the right family, in order to do anything. And then a lot of, from my perspective, um, generational wealth is really a big thing up here. It's really tight knit. And even for folks that are transplants coming here, I feel like it's just, I hear so many stories of how challenging it is to just break in. But as far as the racism, it's tough because it's really covert. It's really what's happening in the schools as far as like disparities around suspension rates. Like for Providence, there was this big report by John Hopkins that was released saying, hey, Providence really has all these different issues with facilities. We're like one of the worst public school districts in the nation. So a lot of it is really systemic and institutional, but it's really hard because it's very covert. It's really like, you have to really peel back the onion to see it. So yeah, it's challenging, but it's beautiful to live here. But it's challenging. But I also with politics wise, going towards earlier I saw a comment about resources behind from the Democratic Party. A lot of the times too, with some of these states, and I'll speak for for Rhode Island, we're known for being a blue state, but, and this is me as an individual on behalf of myself, Nicole Tingle, but because we're, again, NAACP is nonpartisan, so I'm gonna put my personal hat on. We're a blue state, but that's because a lot of the times people know that you have to either run blue or run independent to have a chance to get on the ballot. And so I feel like that's most of the time that's the case in most places where folks just say, okay, what are my chances to have resources to actually get on the ticket and run? Because I know for Rhode Island, it's more so like whoever usually wins the primaries is pretty much going to win the whole election. So once the primaries are done, everybody's like, yep, that's the candidate, that's the mayor, that's the governor.
Yeah, that's how it is in Broward County. Like if you have to run Democrat, like there's a lot of people who, change Republican to Democrat to run. Like our county sheriff, even though he's a black man, he was, I guess, apparently Republican before. Like he was brought on because of DeSantis and because of with the Parkland shooting, because that's in Broward County, and Marjorie Stoneman Douglas, and so they changed out the sheriff because there was all this controversy. But then that old sheriff tried to run again, but our current sheriff Gregory Tony won, but I think he changed from Republican to Democrat so he can run. But I don't know, for like a lot of people and like for a lot of places in this country, like their party affiliation doesn't even like really matter. Like it's not really like a reflection on who they are. It's just they just have it because sometimes they registered because like, oh, their parents were Republicans, so I registered as Republican back in like 1984. And they just never change it. That's it's like a lot of people. Like a lot of things could happen. Like they could come out as gay, see all the things that are happening. It's like they're just still registered Republican.
I actually had someone locally in Providence that I know who was Black Republican, really strong ties to the Republican Party. And when Trump actually ran, she switched to independent, non-affiliated, because she's like, I can't.
Yeah.
She was like, she's remained independent. And then her family, the same thing like you're saying, like, usually it's passed down. Like her family, for what I understand, was also Republican and grew up on the east side of Providence and all of that. But once Trump ran, I guess she drew the line in the sand for that. She said, no, I'm just going to go independent and leave it there. But most people know that she definitely is a Republican. She has Republican values. So, it's interesting because a lot of the times too, not to get too deep into politics, but for what I've witnessed, like a lot of folks will talk about the origins of both parties, and like the Democratic Party actually being the party of the slaves, and then the Republican Party. But the parties itself, they both have evolved to be these other separate things over time too. So there's that. Yeah. But again, just for the record, the NAACP is nonpartisan.
Right. Yeah.
They're nonpartisan, but one thing that the NAACP did do, which was interesting, during the convention out in, is it Detroit? Yeah, I believe it was Detroit. And they called for a resolution to stand in favor of the impeachment for Trump. So, and it passed unanimously, which that was interesting because it was more so just a lot of the rhetoric that I believe he was speaking about and a lot of the different moves that he was making. From my understanding, it was just more so like most of what he stands for, it just does not align with who we are as an organization, many of our positions that we take as an organization. So that was interesting. I haven't seen that before as far as any other, maybe I'm wrong, but I haven't seen it with any other presidential candidates or any candidates in that regard. But for Trump, the NAACP had a resolution that was for the impeachment of Trump.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is pretty big. The one thing that I thought of that kind of like reminded me, like going not back to Florida specifically, but like with Georgia, when I know the All-Star game happened and there was a big pullout because of the voting rights law. That one was a little tricky because excuse me, of course you could say, oh, I think the black church thing, that was a big one where it was like the Sundays where Sunday voting was limited, so it was like the that seemed like an attack on like that tradition. But I'm not sure like what the impact exactly was, and so I do wonder sometimes about some of these things. Like, was there some kind of residual, like, oh, we actually needed this game to be here, or like what kind of, even in other states, like what kind of things have been done to sort of, I don't know, like to build awareness or to like either, because it's not exactly like a boycott, right? It wasn't like a hardcore like boycott. Um, I mean, they pulled out, so that was obviously like a big thing. Like, I had this law, we're not doing it. I would say abortion was actually the big one, where there was actually a lot of pulling out of Georgia, where based on that first law, and I mean that was supposed to be at the time kind of like, oh my gosh, Georgia has this ban before every state went like off the rails and started just doing 6 week bans left and right. But Georgia at the time, I mean, it was relatively strict at the time, and I do remember hearing a lot about you know people, because I think Georgia does. I mean, it has, it's kind of like the Black Hollywood. Like, you have like a lot of entertainment there, so I do feel like there was like, oh, okay, there's actually some kind of punch, and is this the way that we want to do this? And I guess that's always a conversation. Like, you kind of want to affect some kind of money, or like you want to have some purpose. Like, I think that's a really interesting question that you asked about with Florida, is the point to like hurt the pockets, because I hadn't really looked at the economic thing. I just kind of saw it more as like this is a social like call to all of these things with it, whether the history standards. I mean, that one was so new actually with the slavery kind of curriculum. But before that, of course, you had the AP. There was a lot of other things going on. So, but that was just like something I thought of with Georgia, and I was trying to think of other states too, where like things have happened, or even issues outside of race explicitly, where people have, for political reasons, sort of like done a big like pressure campaign on the state and like moving things away from there because of certain actions said state has done. And yeah, I don't know. I've never been to, well, I would say never. I've been to Florida like once. I went to Orlando for a weekend, not even for Disney. It was for a conference. Actually, it was okay. It was a diversity and computing conference, but Orlando was supposed to have the NASB convention, National Society of Black Engineers, for those who aren't hip. It was supposed to be in Orlando. Next year is the 50th anniversary. So I think they wanted to find like a really big convention center, and Orlando is really big. I know Grace Hopper happens there for women in computing, but they were like, oh, we're moving out. And now they're actually going to Georgia, funny enough, Atlanta. So I'm like, man, okay. That's tough. Like, now I'm not sure exactly what the effect would have been. I mean, Nesby does try to always have some kind of connection when they go to a city and connect with some, but they're there for 4 days. So like, I don't know how big that effect is, but it's just something that I thought of, like, and that could have happened anyway outside of the travel advisory. They could have, Nesby probably was going to see this and say, hey, actually, this may not be the move. And so I think, like, not even just to single out NAACP, even though obviously it makes sense, we're talking about it today, but I'm like, yeah, a lot of people have decided that they're going to kind of make certain moves. Maybe not all of them made like huge national press, but people are sort of seeing Florida and they're saying, okay, we're going to pull out of this conference from here, XYZ. And I've seen, it happens in other states as well. And I guess you just kind of go with the least problematic, because even Georgia, like I mentioned, people pulled out of there, and we're heading there next year. So I guess you kind of do a calculus.
So what can actually happen if the NASB conference was going to be in Florida? And granted, yeah, it's only 4 days. However, the people who go, they will end up probably going to a restaurant, probably to a bar, club, somewhere where they can actually meet other potential people, even outside of the conference. Even on dating apps, whatever, what have you. Like it happens, and especially with Florida, like we see and meet people who are from out of town all the time, Like if you just step out of your house, especially if you said it was going to be in Orlando, yeah, especially. also, even if like they end up meeting people who actually don't live in the state, they probably, they like the people who come down here, they probably have family in the state too. Like it's just that's just how networking happens.
Sure.
So, like they could create some kind of connections and also just hear of companies that are, you know, very diverse or who are actively hiring, especially hiring for, black and brown engineers, software engineers, coders, data analysts, like anything that would be in NASB. Um, like even at the company that I work for, like I know people who went to the NASB conference, and I feel like there's something coming up. Like I think I heard about it. But yeah, like it's, like everybody knows the big companies, and if you're in the field, you probably hear about like other really awesome companies like Salesforce, for example. Like like the average person doesn't really know Salesforce, so it's like, well, that thing that I use sometimes at work, like, but it's like a fantastic company to work for, from what I hear. So, like they have them in certain places in certain states, possibly for a reason to also create some other kinds of outreach and also to get, because when it's getting promoted, when you hear about it in your city, in your area, then like, it creates a buzz. Like it may seem small, but it's, like it's a big thing. Like, so it can kind of create like a small, I don't really want to call it like a brain drain, but kinda like a little bit. It's just because, okay, now we're not going to have this conference here. So because it's, first of all, it's like people from like different states coming in, so like they also get to like go to the state, so they get to meet the state. It's like, oh, this is actually not too bad. I can see myself living here. There's no state taxes. So like, like Central Florida still is still kind of, relatively cheap to live, compared to the other parts of the state. Like it is like there are parts of Orlando that are massively like very expensive, and it's kind of insane. But compared to South Florida, Central Florida is still relative. Orlando area is still cheaper. So, but yeah, I could go on and on about it. It's just like you just never know what could have happened now, but now those connections can never happen because of a travel advisory or, you know, the things that are out of, you know, the people who live in the state's control. Like we don't want this to be happening either. Like it drives us crazy too. Like, but we have just a crazy governor who's on like some weird power trip, who was trying to take down Disney and then failed, and is trying to act like it's not a big deal. Like,
Right.
you know, Disney was like, I don't know what the heck that was about, but like he's running for president. So like if you see the crap that he's just doing, in Florida with like, just the flick of a wrist, he's gonna do that with the rest of the country. Like, I mean, you already saw like what Trump has did to the country. Like DeSantis would be 10 times worse. Like I wouldn't be surprised if he's like, you know, like in the states where marijuana is legalized, if he just stops it somehow.
Hmm.
You know, because there's, because he doesn't plan on legalizing it in Florida, even though it's like massively popular. Like shit, he like former felons were supposed to gain their right to vote because we voted for that. And then it was the same time he was elected in the first time. He was just like, oh, well, you have to pay the court fees. So it's like, oh, so someone who is just poor can't vote is essentially what. It's like this person was a former felon. Sometimes the felonies are stupid.
Right.
And regardless of what it was, if you know, if you paid your debt to society, from, being imprisoned, then you are free. But why are you just like, you're like free on a technicality, you're like not fully free. That doesn't make any sense. It's like, so you're out here trying to get a job, which is difficult because you have to put down that you're a former felon. And you're trying to make a living, and then you're just, you just can't vote. Like it just makes zero sense. Because like there are people who are homeless and can vote, and it's just because they weren't former felons. So it has nothing to do with money, is what I'm trying to get at. Like it's just. It just doesn't make any sense. I'm not saying like homeless people should definitely vote. I'm just saying like the comparison when it comes to money. It's like it just doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree. There's definitely a lot going on down there. Not to get like too stuck on the. I mean, it's all interesting, like because I'm more removed. Like I forgot, like oh yeah, right, that conference could have happened, and it would have been interesting because I had gone for the only reason I even went in 2018 was for the conference for diversity and computing, a smaller conference, not related to NAACP at all. That's actually more of a recent conference, but yeah, I don't know. I think, I mean, even during the pandemic, it's interesting because I know people who went into Florida. I guess you could say for freedom. And these weren't necessarily like even people on the right. These are just people like, some of them were also like people who were pretty, like they could have been like Black friends of mine or people who were about diversity, but they just went for certain reasons. So I feel like a lot of people have the perception already. Like the people who know, and they'll still go and they'll visit, they'll go for the benefits that they want. I mean, I think even AOC, like there's a whole viral thing where she came to the state and like was enjoying herself back in like 2021 or something. And so I don't know, like it's definitely tough. Like I know Rocky had some interesting points in the chat. But it is interesting because it's definitely one of the most viral things like for the NAACP right now. Like I'm thinking of things that I remember the past few years, like even the indictment of Trump. I don't remember if I remember that. With not the indictment, sorry, the impeachment.
That was a little while ago. At this time.
Yeah, right. Oh,
yeah.
So yeah. Like that's
also the NAACP just put out a social media post, like pretty much talking about Trump's indictments and whatnot on Instagram. I saw it, and I can just read it off really quick. But yeah, NAACP does not like Trump. So there's an NAACP Instagram post that says right now, criminal counts equals 91, indictments equals 4, and impeachments equals 2, integrity equals 0.
Dang, they're not playing.
No, we don't play. The NAACP does not play any games with folks. Yeah, it's just it's just not okay. And I know, like, as far as I know, we're talking about tech a bit, and you mentioned Salesforce, and I know Salesforce actually had a partnership with the NAACP because we are an old organization, and I mean, it's public, it's online. So anyway, we had when I first joined NAACP, we still had paper membership rosters. We were not digital at all, and that was only a few years ago. And
Oh wow.
yeah, like it's been really traditional, old school in many ways. But through the partnership with Salesforce, to my understanding, that was the way to kind of bring us more to the digital age. And I know the current president, the national president, is Derek Johnson, which I've met a couple times. He's cool. Um, from my perspective, he's focused on bringing us the NAACP, getting us more modernized, and so our membership portal, our membership rosters are now digital, because we now have a CRM with Salesforce. Yeah, so that those small little things. And oh, by the way, we're a membership based organization um, on a local end. And so what that means is, like, we don't get paid as volunteers locally unless you have, like, some NAACP offices have paid staff, but they have paid staff. It's most likely they have an executive director. And those are, from my understanding, more of like a lot of the larger branches, like Detroit, Michigan is our largest branch. So Detroit, I'm sure they have paid staff, but majority of us, we're all volunteers and we're membership based. And so with that, something simple like a membership CRM, it makes the entire difference, especially in this digital age. So small things like that is important. There's some other things I can touch upon, some other things too. But yeah, Florida definitely is a top trending topic. Like, even on the national website, all you will see, most of the recent press or recent topics has to do with with things that are going on in Florida. But on another note, other um, campaigns, like for Financial Literacy Month, for instance, there was a partnership to focus on financial literacy, and depending on where you were with your journey as far as like credit and other avenues that you want to take to improve your financial health, there was a partnership to focus on that. There's also focus on small businesses and providing grants to small businesses. There's national scholarships in partnership with Dark and Lovely and Walmart. And even on a local end, speaking of Walmart in Providence, we had an incident that went viral. I'm not sure if anyone heard about it, but there was a fundraiser in the Providence Walmart location. There's only one Providence location of Walmart, which I personally don't go to. I try to avoid it for personal reasons. But there was employees that were sitting in cages because Hasbro is based out of Rhode Island. So I guess the concept was to raise money for Hasbro and have the employees sit in a cage in like a jail and say, I need money for bail. And so you will donate money to help get the employee out of jail. And so, of course, a Black employee ended up in the cage, and then people were like, "We're not having this at all." Like, personally, I think it was tone deaf. I don't think anybody should be in a cage for a fundraiser. But I do know that our local president, President Catala, he had a statement that was released regarding that matter. But yeah, so I mean, that's something that we demanded an apology, and I know he's been in contact with the store. But given that we have like a national touch point with Walmart, I'm sure there's more to come for that. But I've noticed, like, the NAACP, we tend to have, and I'm gonna say it, we tend to have sponsorships with organizations that have historical woes, like historical problems with people of color. Even like Wells Fargo, I believe, was a sponsor at one point, and they have a history. Like most of these legacy organizations have a history of some sense of racism, racial incidents. So yeah, that tends to be the one thing that hopefully we are receiving funds from like places like Walmart or Wells Fargo, things of that nature to help fund like sponsorships, scholarships, things of that nature, which is going to Black students and to our initiatives. But I feel that when we have these local incidences, and I'm sure that we're moving in the right direction because I personally have confidence in our president because he is building those relationships with the right people to put the pressure on these national organizations when there are local incidences that are happening that are a disservice to our people. So I think there's just an opportunity for us as the NAACP to make sure that we're strengthening our connections to local and national issues. And that can be challenging because it really is, it's an association. So it's all about who you know and who you associate with. And with that, with the NAACP, the structure, you have your local units, which can be a college unit, an adult unit, or a state conference. And then you have regional, and then you have like the nationals. So you have to like strategically build out your network within the association in order to be effective on the local level as well. So that in itself can be a bit of a challenge if you do not have the bandwidth to really build all that out or don't have the local resources to even to do that at times. So that's something that continues to be a conversation, but that's why we're a membership based organization because there's strength in numbers. And the more people that we have as members, which by the way, if you're listening, if you're on this call, like please become a member of your local NAACP unit, even if you're not going to be necessarily active in the general body meetings or to the actual national conventions. Just simply by being on that role, you're supporting because you're helping to strengthen that branch, that unit's voice, because the number of folks that are on the roll determines how many delegates you can have to be able to be a voice at your state conference and even at your national office. So that helps to strengthen how effective your local NAACP is going to be with advocating for you if there's or anyone in your community that comes to them and says, hey, I have an issue that I believe is linked to some form of like and social justice issue or some type of racism that's going on. And it happens more often than we think. A lot of the times where folks, in my opinion, see the NAACP, if they do see us, it's usually on the CNN or on the media or maybe going to a gala and it looks like all fun and games, but like really like what's happening when they say the revolution would not be televised is true because what happens on a day-to-day basis, I know locally we always receive inquiries about something that happened. So simply by being on a roll, being a member of the association, it's $30 for an adult membership for 1 year.
Wow.
I mean, that actually really helps because we really need numbers. And even when I'm thinking about, I know we talked about Florida or even places like Florida or Dallas and many of these other places, even with Mississippi and Jackson.
Yeah, I was going to ask about Mississippi and Jackson. Yeah.
Even then, there was like there's the water crisis, and the NAACP was able to mobilize, and the national office when there are huge crises, and I would say to be honest, more of like on a state level. I've seen the NAACP like national staff like swoop in and support when there's like a crisis. So I know that there was support with regard to water and mobilize it around that, and even in Georgia. So that's what the function of the NAACP is to make sure that when there are those, like, for lack of a better phrase, severe situations that are happening, the more people that, again, we can have local that's saying, hey, that's on the rolls, that also, honestly, the right folks in leadership locally too, because members do have voting power. And sometimes, I'm gonna be honest, sometimes like you have folks in leadership that are real comfortable and they're sitting there and they're just like, yeah, nobody knows about what's going on with the NAACP. We're just gonna sit here and I'm gonna get the invites to the White House and all these other places and galas, and I'm gonna be real comfortable. That's because folks just don't know what they don't know. But if you're a member, you also get voting power. So if you feel like someone's in leadership at your local NAACP and they're just too comfortable or they're not doing the right thing, vote, run for office or vote them out, because it really is that powerful of an organization.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm hearing all this, and I definitely gotta look. Like, I feel like I always tell myself, "Oh my god, I need to." So I'm actually gonna go and like seriously look at this. That membership, I mean, that's even cheaper than, because I remember like Nesby. I mean, Nesby is not like terribly expensive per year, but I mean, even them, like, it could have been up to $50, or I've seen 30 something. So I mean, like, yeah, that's like really manageable. Even just like following the events, right? Being a paid member, of course, getting voting power and all of that is like actually pretty fantastic. And I guess linking, like, what something you said about like you can get like NAACP, like if you see something kind of happening that's not right, and getting, what I remember hearing about is that Candace Owens, of all people, had the NAACP. Yeah, no, unfortunately, you probably know too well about this. She, of all people, like had the NAACP when she was like, I don't know if she was like 19 or early 20s. I mean, she's not old, but like this was like some time ago when she was like barely an adult, or maybe not even, and she had helped with some discrimination. And so I feel like that, besides that irony, but like in general, like having that kind of force behind you when you see something going wrong on the academic level, on the business level, and I mean that's serious. Like, I don't even know, like it's something that I don't think about a lot. Especially like, when you had a lot of, and this is a little bit of, I guess we're getting a little, I mean, I don't want to get too ahead of ourselves, but 2 weeks from now, because, we have our last stream and we're doing it every other week. But when you hear a lot about like modern kind of organizations, I mean, Ben Crump comes up a lot, Black Lives Matter comes up a lot. And so kind of like when you hear about these modern sort of like legal, like representation, for instance, of people who've lost people to police violence, or there's certain like incidents that have happened. And so seeing like the NAACP's here going to bat for people, I mean, that's pretty like, it's pretty impressive, pretty dope. Like, to know that you have an organization at your back. And I am interested in kind of seeing the affirmative action. That's something I'm going to have to look at more in terms of that, the university diversity, no matter what, because kind of like with Roe v. Wade being overturned, like it's not a good thing, but like you kind of see a lot of individual organizations start to like push back and codify things in their own right. So I'm kind of wondering, like, okay, what are universities going to do now that this is kind of gone? And then this is like, is there going to be a backlash? Or, I mean, I know some schools are getting rid of legacy admissions already. And then like, what's the outreach going to look like to diverse areas that universities can still do while staying compliant? And so I'm actually really interested. That's something I'm probably going to look at more soon, and seeing kind of what the higher education and other education pieces are with the NAACP. But anyway, that was just something that just came to mind.
Yeah, and I just have to add this as far as membership. And you mentioned like Candace Owen was part of the NAACP when she was younger. Like, it's surprising. There's like the NAACP is very diverse in itself. But we also have youth memberships too. So and one thing I wish I would have done, would have known to do, I wish somebody would have recruited me at the undergrad level for the NAACP, especially Temple University. I heard it's like, now that I'm older, I've learned, and with the NAACP, I've learned Temple U, my alma mater, has a really great chapter. So when you're becoming a youth member, I think the youngest member at one point was like 3 years old or something, because some people literally grow up in the association. Maybe have a parent or someone who's been involved. So some people are literally like growing up in the organization. There's these things called youth councils as well. And so a youth member, which is really interesting, is all the way up until the age of 25. Actually, and I believe from my perspective, the reason why that is because you're probably still considered like a college age, like, you're still a recent grad. But I feel like a lot of the times that if I was to graduate and I was under 25, I probably would still switch my adult membership. So that way I could vote in the adult unit. That's the only thing. But if you're a youth and you would like to join like a youth council or There can even be high school chapters that can be started. There can be even college. If there's not even a college chapter on your campus, all you need is 25 members, and to connect with the local branch president to say, hey, we want to do this, and you get their blessing. You get 25 members, and you can start a chapter. So those are other ways where youth. There's a whole youth and college division that works should be working in partnership with the adult division. And I know there was a question I think earlier that said something about like resistance that may have been faced.
Yeah, this question here.
Any organizational resistance? Are there any particular strategic directions you want the organization? To be honest, yeah. So the resistance really comes from the generational gap. To be honest, I'm not that young, y'all. I'm like in my early 30s, but I'm considered young we're considered young with the organization, with the NAACP, and that's really alarming to me, because I feel like anytime I'm getting any resistance is because of my age and because I am a single woman, to be honest, in leadership. Like it's always there's been many times where I just personally, and this is just no matter which administration I was under or in general, that's why the Next Gen program, leadership program, is really important to continue to have with the association, because it provides that space for us to have partnership with other folks that are between, I think it's 21 to 40 is like a big window, but that window is really that training that will be able to close that intergenerational gap in a sense. Like, I can ramble about that. I'm not going to really go off on that. But yes, I feel like for sure, anytime I was dealt with resistance was because of being a woman, being considered younger, being in leadership. And it can be a pretty masculine space as far as civil rights and this movement. And historically, women, although we continue to be the backbone of this movement, you don't really see quite often. It's been times where we haven't really gotten in my opinion, we haven't really gotten our props the way we should have. A lot of times we've been in the shadows. Yes, we had Rosa Parks and Ida B. Wells, and many others. But yeah, we have a long way to go to make sure that women are being respected and treated fairly in this particular movement. So I'll just, say that. But also, as far as the direction, I feel like the organization should move in or should continue to move in is I'm glad to see that there was a recent investment into the Next Gen program initiatives. That's hot off the press. That is really great news as an alum of that program, because I honestly would not have been able to continue to be effective as a leader in the NAACP if it wasn't for the trainings and for having that space in the Next Gen program. To learn about resolutions, to learn about best practices, and as far as legal redress, to also learn about what's called the VAN system, the voter access system, which I was trained in by way of Next Gen, and to really understand how to use it, to also bring all that information in the trainings to my local unit, even knowing best practices for our local branch elections, and being able to do my darn best to teach folks, because again, that women thing and the age thing, sometimes I have to really build a lot more rapport with certain folks and build that trust I feel like at a heightened level in this particular space than I have to in maybe other spaces that I've been in professionally because of those dynamics. But I feel like that Next Gen program was really helpful. So one thing that we really need to do across the board when it comes to civil rights, when it comes to this movement, is make sure that we're fully supporting youth, young adults and youth, because honestly, those are the boots on the ground. Those are the folks that have the energy. And we need to make sure that we're not just like the older folks. Please stop talking at these younger people, but partner with the younger people. I mean, we have all this information on the internet at these days, and a lot of the times, like these resources. So I feel like youth these days are a bit or should be more advanced, right? Over time, folks evolve. So for me, it's really like the adults or the elders, please, like, just build some succession plans, invest in the younger folks, and give us our space to be able to lead. And allow for there to be times where we might make some mistakes. Make the spaces for us to make some mistakes. That's okay. That's how you learn. That's how you grow. Um, but partner with us. I think the reason why I've been effective as well at times, especially with some of the voted access legislation during the pandemic, is because I had someone in my corner from an intergenerational perspective who was able to. Yes, he was a part of the baby boomer, but and there were some things that I wasn't always fond of, but we were able to talk things out. Sometimes have spirited conversations, respectful conversations, and even if we didn't disagree, even if things got spirited, we made sure that we always shook hands or always hugged it out before we left the space of having that conversation and that discussion. And so for me, that goes a long way. I really do appreciate the fact that I was able to have that particular thought partnership and that um, conglomerate with that particular individual, especially given our age gap. But I feel like we need more intergenerational partnerships that are not as one sided, that are not ways that we can try to exploit youth, because that does happen, unfortunately, in this place. Not ways to. I also seen sometimes there are times where folks, in general, this is not even just the NAACP at this point, but in general, you see folks that will jump into this space, maybe initially for the right reasons, but then see the power of being in this space and you really need to at times leverage media to be effective. We've seen that all throughout the civil rights movement, right? So people, now we have social media, and so now it's easier for you to build a platform off of this movement. But to be honest, that's the one thing that is getting on my nerves because it's in the way. I am honestly tired, because I've had folks come towards me or come towards like the organization, and now you have to question, like, okay, not only are folks here maybe for political purposes, and everybody has their agenda, or has things that gets them fired up and their why, even if they don't share it. But what really grinds my gears is if someone is only coming around and they're like, get starry eye, and then they just start to just be in the way, and that's all their focus is on. It's like, oh, I'm with this person, I'm with that person. Like, you should be someone or feel like you're somebody and have a certain level of confidence, and also coming in with a certain level of I want to learn, and respect the space before you jump into it's, I would say, more so a leadership role. So that's the end of my little rant regards to that. But I would say overall, the organization, as far as the NAACP, is moving in overall the best, in a good space, with modernizing our digital assets. Like, our website is way better than it was before I first joined. Like, there's resources on there for members or even folks who just say, I want to do something, not sure what to do. Like, great resources, past resolutions. As far as if you want to know where the NAACP stands on certain issues, you should visit our resolutions library on the national website. Um, but yeah, I would say that intergenerational piece and making sure the resource our local units, because honestly, the local units is really what's going to continue to drive this organization forward.
Yeah. Yeah, everything's local. No, this is great, and the passion is good. Like, I know at one point you're like, you don't want to get too deep into one thing. And I was like, listen, I was like, let me dive in.
Yeah.
Well, careful, L. Sorry, I had to put a little shade. Don't dive too deep because you know. Anyways, no, sorry, because I was like, I was thinking swimming, and I was like,
It's my, yeah. That's
I couldn't
funny.
even get it out. I couldn't even hit the punchline, but it's okay. We love you. So, in all seriousness, though, like, yeah, that's really interesting in terms of the generation. I mean, it's always a big thing you hear in politics. And NAACP, of course, is like, I mean, there's a lot of political things, but there's a lot of things outside of politics, right? Too. So, kind of seeing those changes in a lot of, like in different generations of leadership, and that's always seems to be a struggle, whether it's strictly in the political space, whether it's in even some, I'm sure, like legacy media or like some places in Hollywood. Like you always have the old guards, right? And you have people coming in on the younger front, but then how did you sort of make it mesh? Um, so yeah, no, that I think you hit a lot of like really interesting things, and
Mhm.
it's true. I'm like, yo, man, like again, the fire is contagious. Like the passion um, is very much there. So thank you for honestly enlightening us and like giving us things that we can take into account and look at on our own, and because I don't know, I feel like a lot of us in different ways, we've been involved in different organizations. I'm sure sometimes national, sometimes local, and sometimes it just I don't know, like you just kind of get to your own bubble, you retreat to your own corner, and sometimes you forget, oh yeah, things like this are happening. There are people who are doing all these types of works all over the place, and it is interesting. It's like I wonder what the local chapter here in Maryland is doing. Like I was not involved in Massachusetts, to be honest, but again, I met one person who was. I can't remember the name right now, but pretty sure someone that you would have to know. And then of course we had someone run for office, Tanisha Sullivan, right?
Yes,
So
President Sullivan of the Boston branch.
she was the yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So I remember seeing like, man, like there's stuff happening. I just have to tune into it a little bit more. But yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And, if I may, shout outs to Michael Curry. He's also the former president of the Boston branch and national board member of the NAACP. He's also one of the founders of the NAACP Next Gen Leadership Program, along with president of the Washington, D.C. branch, who's Kosho Ali. Who also, I consider them both. I've learned so much from them. So just wanted to shout them out too.
Okay. Oh, awesome. Yeah, shout out your people for sure.
Yeah.
I'm gonna see if I can find. Okay, I found the person who was the mutual. See, that's how you know it's been so long. Do you know someone named Ayana? Ayana Polk.
Yes, Ayana Polk.
Yeah,
Yes,
she was
next gen.
a long, long time ago. I mean, it was 2019, but it feels like a generation ago.
Kind of
So
was.
yeah, wow, that's just so interesting. Like, there's there's a lot going on, and I'm here for it. A lot of research I gotta do for sure on my own end, and just things to figure out. I think that thing is dangerous, and I'll wrap up on this. But like that kind of like you feel the energy and the movement. There's the cloud, even if it's not intentionally. I kind of felt like cloud chasing. That's the word that came to my head when you were describing what you were describing, where it's like you kind of have that like, oh, I know this person, and name dropping, right, and just like that presence. Even if it is kind of like you have the good intentions and you want to kind of use like this platform and the movement to achieve something greater, but then it kind of you get wrapped up in the stardom, right? Same thing with politics. You kind of get wrapped up in some kind of stardom and the proximity to power,
Mhm.
which is so interesting. Like you even said with the White House invites with like people getting too comfortable and all of that. And yeah, I remember seeing someone post on Instagram. It wasn't even someone I knew. Like I kind of saw like a chain of stories or posts, and someone had been invited, and they met with like Joe Biden and the First Lady. I don't remember what, but I was like, man, like, shoot, that would be interesting. Like, that would just be interesting to be in a space with these people and just kind of see, like, what that's like. You know, there was someone, oh yeah, Kizmekia Corbett, Dr. Corbett, who basically led the lab that did the vaccine, and she was in the room with Trump and people giving advice and stuff. And like, yeah, of course, not out here repping for Trump, but it is still interesting to be able to bring your expertise and be in that room and be like, man, there's something tantalizing about that. And so having those good intentions and wanting to make sure that you're really keeping, I guess, that vision in mind, and not get caught up with all the things. So anyway, that's something that just came to me. But yeah.
You always have to. My philosophy is like always be a student of the game, and don't get too comfortable. The moment I get too comfortable in this movement, I know it's my time to step to the side and let someone else lead, hopefully, and take and do something, or take a quick little break, because there's really no days off once you're. I would say more so leadership wise, if you're involved, there's really no days off. But
Mm.
yeah, it's. But I would say, um, yeah, like we just need to make sure that we're all moving tactfully and we have some type of strategy, um, and working collectively too. Because also a lot of the times folks will join maybe one particular organization, and then there's like, there might be some bumping up the heads. But I feel like also, no matter which organization you choose to join, just making sure that, keeping the mission and why we're all in this fight. And even if we're in our own lane and we're all bringing our certain talents, that's okay. Because I feel like that's also could be a dynamic too. It's just making sure, and it's been historical. Like Booker T. Washington and W.E.B. Du Bois, they both had two different philosophies that were competing at the time. So it's nothing new. But I just feel like the main thing is just do not, if you get involved with these organizations, and again, especially in a leadership position, just make sure you stay grounded and stay on top of what centers you, and keep your morals and values on top of mind, whatever way that you see best, because you can really get lost. You can really lose yourself. So.
Yeah, and thank you for that term, grounded. That's definitely a word that I think I was looking for. So yeah, that's everything, honestly. Um, no, I
Yeah.
love it. Like this is awesome.
Yeah. Oh, this was a fantastic conversation. Yeah. Thank you so much, Nicole, for joining us and educating us a lot, because I actually looked up my local branch just to see what was going on. There wasn't really anything to like join easily, so I guess I have to like contact them or something. Like that.
Yeah, here's a pro tip. If anything, I would try to figure out who the secretary. The secretary is usually the person for each
Okay.
branch. That folks don't really know that. It's hard to find that out. If not, I would contact the state, for you, the Florida State Conference too.
Oh, okay. Okay, that makes. I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, it's
Was the
one of those
second?
things. It's tough to navigate, but if anyone has any questions, or would like to know how to get in contact potentially with their branch, I'm also, or state conference, I'm willing to support. I'm on social media on Instagram, nicole.tingle. And I'm also on Facebook. It's my first and last name, so feel free to connect with me, and I'm glad to support. I'm also on LinkedIn.
Hey.
Okay, yeah, awesome, awesome. Yeah, I'll definitely be connecting with you. Um, yeah, like, when you were saying that people are getting, comfortable, like I did see that my local president's been in the seat since 2005.
Huh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's common. That's common. But my whole thing is, as long as because there's a lot of folks that've been in the roles for a while and they've been doing great work. The problem is when the work gets stagnant, And I mean, it could be a number of reasons. Sometimes it's just a bandwidth issue. But again,
Yeah. No,
yeah.
everybody was like a lot older when I was like seeing the pictures, and it was like, oh wow. Like, and there was like a list of like the members, and like a lot of them had like the middle name May, M-A-E. I was like, ooh, these are so these are so old heads. Like,
It's not, but the organization, I will say this overall, what I love, I really do love the NAACP. Um, it's really an organization where I've learned a lot from the older folks. But
right.
again, I
Okay.
really think that there's an opportunity to, when you get involved, is to really have those like I mentioned, intergenerational connections. I've had really good experiences. I've also feel like there's some folks that I've learned from, but they also learn from me and whatnot. But
Yeah,
yeah,
sure.
I would say that it's overall, but it's a really, I'm not gonna lie, it's a really intense Overall, the NAACP does not play any games when it comes to civil rights. But yeah, I definitely would recommend folks to learn more, get involved. And again, this space is like the next gen leadership program too. So there's opportunities to find your people within the organization.
Okay. Okay.
That's interesting. That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And yeah. Everybody, folks, ladies and gents, it is that time.
It is that time.
Yeah. You don't have to get off the internet, but we are ending the stream. I guess you could technically stay and still comment. I wouldn't. I mean, yeah. I mean, you can technically do that. We'll be leaving, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, thank you all so much for watching, joining us. This was I guess, technically our first stream since we started going bi-weekly.
Mm.
And well, after this, the week off, essentially. I guess August 1st or whatever day that was technically the first day. But yeah, so we're especially grateful for you all to be joining us. That this means a lot to us. And come back not next week. Well, we'll have a special episode on Monday the 28th with two guests. Like if you follow us in the Discord, there's Little Faith. She usually likes to react to messages with the boba tea, and President Manny.
President Manny.
Yes. So
Speaking of the Discord, I can't do anything with it. I'm dead.
That's funny.
I'll have to send you the link. Nicole, we chat in the Discord, send some interesting informations, in a lot of different channels. And for anyone else who's interested, there is yes, there you go.
I'll share it now.
Oh, beautiful, perfect. Yep, and there it is. There's a Discord link. Feel free to chat. We have ideas and feedback where people can give their ideas and just overall posts. And so yeah, we love you guys for real, and so we appreciate you coming here on a Tuesday night. A lot of us aren't Eastern time. Not everyone. Rocky, shout out to you holding it down for the West.
Yes.
But to everyone else,
sorry.
to everyone else, good Lord, we love y'all for being here still.
Yeah. No, for real. With that said, we're signing off. We love y'all, and we'll see y'all on the special episode on Monday the 28th. So stay tuned. Hey, thanks for joining.
Hey.
Hey, that's
Woo-woo.
you see the guy like Extreme Madness?
Yeah, I was about to say, I thought like I was Gil's friend. I've just seen different names, different accounts, I guess.
Yeah, like they're part of, like I know he's part of the Live at the Barbershop. Like I actually joined like a couple of weeks ago. I joined them in the comments. They stream on Friday nights usually. Yeah.
Okay. I'll have to look at them then.
Yeah. Hey.
Oh hey.
Hey. Like, please join us in the Discord. I shared the link in the chat.
Hold on. I'm gonna get you on Twitch.
Okay.
I got you.
All right. Yeah. No, please join us. Join the conversation throughout the weeks. So
I have a feeling I know who's going to show up at the very end of the night. We'll see. Oh
yeah, Marma Tamagos. Hasn't.
See, Nicole, we have some like regulars, and we have some people who like pop in and here, and like we're like, oh my god, it's so good to see you, and it's a great community. Like you just got your core few people that show up. if not every time, semi frequently, and it's always great just to see these people.
Yeah, for real, for real.
Mm-hmm.
But yep, until next time, good night, y'all. We love y'all. And we'll see y'all
Peace.
on the 28th, Monday.
Yes. Yeah, 29th.
Good night.